What's that? He's my best friend, and I was his best man for his wedding last year, October. October of last year, and for his bachelor party for months. I had told him that I wasn't going to tell him what we were going to do for his bachelor party, but I kept dropping these kind of confusing hints to try and take a scent off the path. And I was like, how do you feel about fighter jets? He was like, what do you mean? Like being in them. Like getting like an F-22 Raptor for like, 20 minutes. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't feel very good about that. I'm like, okay, well, just think about it. Just think about it. So we had planned, we had set one specific date that was going to be the bachelor party, but it was going to be a surprise. When in reality, the weekend before was when it was actually going down. And I got our voiceover agent in on the surprise, and she called Troy and booked him on a new video game title that was going to be recording at a studio with Brian Bloom, myself, and Troy in a motion capture space with new clients that were from Russia that were working on a new title. And so he showed up on Friday.
It's all top secret. You weren't allowed to know what the project title was.
Yeah, we didn't know anything. New clients. They were paying very well, so he was excited about that. He showed up at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning to the studio, totally unaware that anything else was going on. The director of the studio is there, a good friend of ours, shook his hand and goes, hey, these clients are kind of weird. They're Russian. They don't speak any English, so they're kind of bristly. Just don't try and engage them too much, and we'll just get started. He goes, okay. So we come in, it's the three of us in this big room. And in a big mocap room, it's a big space, and there are these flat screen TVs on either side of the walls that are like 65 inches, and they have the script there. So instead of having to hold a binder or have a microphone on a stand, you just can see the script on kind of this big TV, and they have these shotgun mics, which are...
That's what they use in movies, when they hold them up over people?
Yeah, you see them kind of come into the camera angle, and they're like, there's a boom in the shot, and you have to lift it out. But that way, you can talk. You would never use those mics in an actual session, but we did that so that there would be no clutter in the room and you could move freely. Beneath those mics, which is a common thing in most sessions, we had set up two video cameras, one facing one direction and another facing the opposite, for facial animation reference.
They do that sometimes.
Yeah, they'll have a video camera right next to the microphone, so if they're animating, they can reference your face and, kind of use that as a guide. We did it so that we would have video evidence. At about 15 minutes into the session, several clandestine signals were given, and there were about 30 of his friends that were in an opposite studio down the hallway that were watching the live feed of our room with their iPhones and cameras. And a large Mercedes utility van pulled up, and 7 tactically outfitted ATF officers exited the van, silently entered the studio, set up, fully decked out, tack vests, elbow pads, knee pads, M4s, laser sights, helmets, goggles, gloves, 2 of which were actual LAPD officers. They opened the studio door, threw in a CO2 flashbang, screaming, everybody, get down to the ground! The clients hit the dirt, right? And we can see it because there's this, soundproof glass right there, and Troy just freezes. Because there's this guy with a giant assault rifle telling everybody to get down. And 2 seconds later, 5 ATF guys that have badges, all government-issued patches and everything, come storming in and like, put your face in the ground, get in the ground, get in the ground! He's just like, oh. And we're all in there. Everybody knows what's going on except for him. We're all going, oh my God! Oh. They literally grab Troy and throw him on the ground, face down. Come in, zip tie everybody, and they're screaming, 4 everybody put your face in the ground, get up! It's just this cacophony of noise. The guy takes Troy's hat, throws it across his room, puts his knee in his back, takes out these zip tie handcuffs, zip ties all of our hands behind our backs, Just one other ATF guy comes in like a windbreaker and a tie, and obviously he's like the brains of the operation, much older gentleman. And starts talking to everybody in Russian. And Brian, the other actor's like, hey man, I don't speak Russian. And he goes, screw this, I want these guys back intact. Get him out of here. We sit Brian up, who's the first one, and we put a black bag over his head with shooting range earmuffs, and we let Troy see it. And Troy's like, so we sit Troy up, put a bag over his head, and shooting range earmuffs, so he can't see and he can't hear. Once the bag went over his head, we popped out of our handcuffs. I ran outside, started that big Mercedes van, and we walked him out, blind and deaf, with everything. Everybody came out there with their iPhones. They're all filming it. We lead him outside, open the back of the Mercedes van, throw him in the back of the van, stick one of the ATF guys back there with him who was a stuntman, shut the door, and there was a stretch of road that was like 1.5 miles that had about 40 speed bumps on it, and I flew down that road going about 40 miles an hour. Finally drive back around. It was like a 6.5 minute drive, but when you're blind and deaf, you think it's been like, I think he said it was like 45 minutes. He thought he was halfway to San Diego. We
clocked it. He was like, okay, now I'm going to the 405. And we just exited, now we're going. He really thought.
Yeah, and he said that like there was 15% of them like this is a joke, it's a prank, but it was still going. And he's like, and if it's not, I'm in so much trouble for some reason. They opened the back of the doors, and the guy that was one of the ATF officers who actually works with the LAPD Vice Squad, I had told him to interrogate him like he would a normal suspect. So he opens the doors and has Troy sit out, but he has the headphones in the back still on. He goes, I'm Officer Johnson, ATF. You're like, Officer Johnson, of course you are. Officer Johnson, ATF. What's your name? What's your name? I say again, what's your name? And he's saying nothing. Troy's just sitting there with the bag over his head and his hand behind his back. I'm like, oh God, I gave him a heart attack. He's dead, he's in shock. I say again, what's your name? Nothing. He looks at me and I'm like, you know that thing they do on TV where they don't say their name? That doesn't help you, buddy. I say again, what's your name? And finally Troy goes, Troy.
Aww.
Troy what? Baker. Do you know why you're being detained, Troy Baker? He goes, no. I'm like, okay, take the bag off. Takes his bag off. Everybody screams. Huge prank. We had gotten like 5 or 6 stunt guys, rehearsed for 2 weeks, went out to a professional Hollywood costume shop, had to rent all these government ATF uniforms. The funniest part being when you get an actual ATF like shoulder badge, it's a government issued badge. So they go, we have to tell you, don't lose these badges. And we had 12 of them, you know, for 6 guys, 1 on each shoulder. And we're like, don't lose them. Okay, yeah, sure. They're like, no. Really, don't lose them because they're incredibly expensive and you can go to jail. I'm like, what do you mean go to jail? He goes, these are government-issued law enforcement badges. If you lose them and they fall into the wrong hands, you understand. I'm like, oh, right. So if I lost this one badge, it's, you know, the size of my palm, how much would that be? It's like, about $900. I'm like, oh, and he goes, and you go to jail. So don't lose the badges. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so needless to say, Troy was completely blown away. We had it all on tape. It was this huge prank. We'll never put it on YouTube or anything just because that wasn't really the point. But of all, like Sam Riegel was there, Liam O'Brien, Chris Sabat flew all the way out from Dallas for it. It was like the start of his bachelor weekend, and easily the best prank ever done. I would show the video of it, but I can't.